Okay, so what I did my paper on was social workers, and homebound students. And I feel like this topic was very, I feel like this topic was very beneficial to me myself personally because in the nearby future I want to be a social worker, also homebound student. I want to work in the school system because later on I want to be a coach. So I felt like this topic was very um dear to my heart, very interesting. I learned some things. And yeah, I'm just hop right into it. Okay, so the start of my paper, in the introduction, I explained the importance of the social workers and why they are so important to homebound students because there's a difference. So social workers are various things. I mean, they're not various things. They're one thing, but they can help so many parts of the world. It's just not like education. It's just not like children. Social workers are mentors, leaders. Um, Myself personally, my mentor, well, my leader, somebody that I look up to is my social worker from high school, Miss Campbell. She was very. It wasn't more so about just her or her just reaching out to kids. She actually sat down and got a connection with these kids. She made like it made she made everything feel like family. So what else? At the end of the introduction, of course, I merged my thesis at the end that stated through this vocation of social work of social workers, the lives of homebound students can be impacted in like so many positive ways, and I definitely feel like that was a key topic, and that caught my reader's eye because social work, I feel like sometimes get belittled in a way. Social work is so positive. I mean, you just look at things. People that like involve themselves with social work are so like much positive. Like they enjoy what they're doing. It's not a job that you wake up and just be like, I gotta go to this job. I mean, some you may get tired of it, but social work is more so of a job. Like it feels like a vocation. God has put you on this earth to help people, make people's situations better, or get people out of these situations to evolve or to become whatever they want to be or aspire to be later in life. So yeah. What is a social worker? I put that next to my paper. A social worker is a person who protects families, also vulnerable children. So social workers help people solve and cope with problems in their everyday life. So social workers are just helpers. If you just to put everything together, social workers just help people. They guide people. They're, like I said, mentors, leaders. You look up to a social worker, and that's just you look. Social workers are there to make you comfortable, there to make you happy, there to put you in the best outcome or situation or circumstance as possible, whether that's um, guiding you through your school with your instructor, your homebound instructor, because I'm gonna get to it, but homebound instructors and social workers are kind of different in a way, but their goal is pretty much the same, but their pull is different. Social workers get to do things that homebound like instructors don't get to, which I'm gonna get into that. But yeah, that's what social workers are. A homebound instructor is a person who instructs students that are unable to attend school physically. So a student that either a teenager that became pregnant, or a student dealing with an illness, a student that battling cancer. It could be any, like, it's various things. It's just not, oh, this kid is at home because they don't know, they can't keep up the speed with the other kids or something like that, which that may be the case, but in most cases it's either a sickness or an illness or a sense of uh, need of one-on-one help. All right, so then in the paper, I went to detail about um, like I said, the importance of homebound instructors. I mentioned that homebound instructors' main job is to educate the students while they're physically out of school. And I pointed out why these children have to be homebound students. Basically how I explained: illness, pregnancy, surgery. You also could be, you know what I'm saying, if it's a leg injury or something like that, you have to have surgery. You're out of school physically. So these instructors will come to your home and actually give you the criteria that your teacher requested for you to do, and they just teach you the best way they can and keep you up to date and keep you up to speed with the rest of the school, which will be different, but in some cases better because you get that one-on-one interaction with one person. All right, so then I moved on, beginning to talk about the conversation prior, like before I started this paper with my father. He's actually a former homebound instructor, and I pretty much asked him the three questions that helped me come up with my thesis. I asked them how how social work benefits from homebound students, and he gave me like ample examples that we're gonna see here later in a second. Another point that I mentioned in this paper that I felt like was very really a key part of this paper, that social workers they aren't the primary source. They aren't the primary source for homebound students, if you get what I'm saying. They're not the first people you look at when you think about homebound students. They're pretty much like the crutch for homebound students. They pretty much they oversee everything. They make sure everything's the surroundings, the environment's well enough to be doing any type of activities, and they look at the path that the homebound student may be going through or going to or towards, and they try to guide them in a better direction and give them a better sense of, hey, if you do this is the outcome, or if you do this may be the outcome, whether it's good or bad or negative or positive, or it beats anything. But the social worker isn't the main, like the primary source. Is really the homebound instructor to instruct the kid. But I mean, the social worker pretty much oversees everything. So it's like the instructor being the manager and the social worker being the boss. You know what I'm saying? So they give different vibes and feedbacks to each other, which correlates with one another, which builds hopefully a positive environment for the homebound student. All right, so the paper finally talks about after that about how social workers face different problems. Social workers, they don't just go help people. They have to, is a code of ethics, is rules that they have to abide. They can't make decisions, or they can't make decisions for not only themselves but another family based off their emotion or what they've been through or what they feel that is right. A social worker is there to guide. A social worker is there to help. Like I said, a crutch. The social worker isn't there to demand, and the social worker does have range to, if the homebound student is under duress or under violence or abuse. If it gets to a certain point, the social worker do have the ability, after they went through a tedious process with this family, counseling and stuff like that, they do have the ability to remove the child and either put them in relative homes or a family friend home. But what they don't want is to put a child in a predicament where they have to start all back over, So they try to keep the child as comfortable as possible. Shortly after that, I explained the process of social workers and the steps that they have to come up with the decisions to put these homebound students in the best situation possible. And pretty much what I just said, social workers, they can't go with what they heart say all the time, or they can't wear their heart on their sleeve, as people say. They pretty much have to go through steps and building blocks, climb building blocks to come up with their decision. It's just not something they just wake up and say like, oh, I'm gonna just remove this kid, or oh, I'm gonna mention this, or I'm gonna say this to make this person feel this type of way. So they have to go through a tedious process as well. So as draining it may be for this kid to be like, man, the social worker keeps popping up in my house, wanting to know all these questions, is just as draining on the social worker to implement their their abilities positively on this child. So my three questions that made up my thesis came later, kind of later in the paper, and it was pretty much in which ways can a social worker impact homebound students, and so these are examples that my father had gave me. My father had gave me, the former homebound instructor. So for the first question, in what ways can a social worker impact homebound students? So he said social workers can provide linkage from homebound students to the homebound teacher. So it's things that the homebound teacher aren't able to discuss with this student. So that's where the social worker comes into play, and the social worker gets to, go more in detail, or, hey, why are you feeling this way? Or are you being abused? Whether the instructor is just there for academic purposes and going down the criteria that their teacher giving them, it's not too much that they can get into. So the second question was, what teacher strategies will a social worker need to apply to be beneficial for these homebound students? So basically, this question was kind of broad. Social workers is not really like something that you pinpoint and say, oh, these are the strategies you should use for these homebound students, because it's not all people are different. So people may need more, how do I say this? People may need more tough love than other people. People may need, oh, I need that person to be soft and gentle because of what they may be experiencing or what they may be going through in life, or just people in general. I mean, you reach people all different type of ways. Some people are more in person, like today. Like some people are more in person type people, and some people may like that we're online and stuff like that. So it's just based off the homebound student, as I would say. Okay, so the third question was why social worker jobs are so important for these homebound students. So why are social workers important to homebound students? And the answer that my dad had gave me, social workers are one of the first lines of defense of homebound students. So usually social workers are contacted first to make sure, that the environment that the student in is all right for an instructor to even come over. Is what path is this kid going down, or who did he associate himself with? So a social worker is somewhat the first line of defense. I also mentioned social workers usually are the people who write up the papers. This kid needs needs a homebound instructor, or other resources. This kid may need clothes, or just extra attention. All right, and then I came to a conclusion, basically explaining the final product of the paper, discussing the key points, basically also discussing that the social worker have more cushion to work with the homebound student than the homebound instructor. And the scripture that I felt like really correlated with my topic was Acts 2:35, and it says, it's more blessed to give than receive. So as social workers, you're really just giving. To be honest, as social workers, you're just giving. You're just there for people. I mean, you're not. Well, I want to be a social worker, and I'm not really going into it like, oh, what can I get out of this, or is people gonna know me for this, or I wonder if I do this, would I get a pat on my back? And personally, I don't feel like that's what it should come down to. I feel like that it should be more so love, and this is what you want to do. This is what drives you every day, and that's pretty much what drives me every day. And that's that's seeing other people being happy. Like, I've always been a person that was never never selfish about anything. I put others before myself. I wanted to see other people happy, and I want to be the person to help these people be happy, so we could look back and say, man, we came like a long way. So yeah, man, that really sums up my paper. I feel like this was a very beneficial paper for me to actually dive into things that I haven't really dived into yet, especially with this being my major. I feel like it's very beneficial for for students that wants to pursue the human services, social work field. I feel like this topic is very amusing and exciting. I feel like you should dive into it. You should know the differences between these things, because before going in, I definitely didn't know the difference between a homebound instructor and a social worker. I just thought my dad was a social worker. I never knew the difference between them. And now that I know the difference between them, hopefully I can take this bit of information and further my education and yeah. So yeah, man, that's the end of my paper. That's how I summed up my paper. That's how I talked about my paper. And yeah, there we go.